How have you been through the pandemic and all of quarantine?
I've just been kind of posted up. I was actually dealing with I don't know what it's like in comparison to coronavirus, but I actually got like some form of like a stomach bug that caused a bunch of ulcers in my stomach. So I was posted up in quarantine, sick the whole time. So it wasn't that fun. I mean, I didn't really get to train through the quarantine. I did, however, manage to eat a lot of food. Had a lot of ice cream, but other than that, no, I haven't been doing much. Just been kind of keeping at home, hanging out.
I mean, I guess it's probably a good time to get sick because everyone else is kind of in the same boat. No one else is training, no one else is doing that stuff, so it doesn't give them time to pass you or surpass you. Everyone's in
Yeah,
the
well,
same boat.
yeah, totally. And also it's like a lot of people in the beginning they were kind of like hesitant on like we didn't really know what was going on if like people even wanted to train and everyone was kind of keeping to themselves. So it was if there was a time to get something like this, it definitely would have been this time. So I mean, it was like it's kind of seems like now everyone's just starting to come together to start getting like training back going again, especially NBC, just because of how we've been doing with our cases out here. So yeah, I guess the timing couldn't have been better.
Is the gym open up? I'm in Nova Scotia, so we're still a little bit behind. I know Nova Scotia's taking things super slow. What's it like in BC? Are the gyms back open? Are you training?
Yeah. I mean, like for the most part, most gyms are like back open now. There's still some like weird stuff with like people like there's like certain gyms that are doing like structuring where like you're not allowed to touch each other, and I mean it's kind of at the point where it's like if you're brave enough to go into the gym, I mean, like if you're that worried about getting it, you probably shouldn't go back to the gym. I'm kind of just been like on the mend of things still, but it seems like all the fighters they're kind of getting together, but the recreational classes are kind of have to kind of cater to a certain way just because of the Fraser health regulations and stuff. So they yeah, it's obviously like being in BC, it couldn't be better because obviously just the way we progressed in looking at places like Nova Scotia or Ontario, it's been a lot worse. So I feel for you guys up there. I hope you get your freedom back soon.
Oh man, I can't wait. I've been by myself for most of it. So I now have my roommates back, but for the first month I was alone and it was brutal.
Yeah, man. It's just like, well, I guess looking back on it, there's little things like that you won't take for granted. Like being, like I went to the grocery store and I swear, like during quarantine, people were so crazy that like I almost got into a fit. Like this crazy old man like tried to get into a fist fight with me for not wearing a mask, and I'm like, man, people have never been ballsier in their life. Like this quarantine's making people go crazy, and
Oh
even
yeah.
myself. I lost my marbles at one point. I'm like, man, are we gonna die? Like, I got like some like health anxiety shit. I worry about just because of like, this stomach virus I got and everything. And I'm like, man, I don't want to get this. And then just everyone was losing their mind for a bit, but I think it's kind of like subsided now, and like I think they have kind of like labeled it as like if you're obviously elderly, it's definitely a dangerous virus for you to get. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's uh there's so many dangerous things that we can catch on a regular, everyday day basis, and we can't shut down the entire world. I think it's just best that people that have to be around elderly people that hey, like you guys should be following whatever guidelines there are to make sure you're ensuring the safety. Like my girlfriend, she works in a retirement home. So every day I was just like, fingers crossed, nothing happens. Fingers crossed, nothing happens. Like she'd like have a little cough going. I'm like dripping her with like B propolis, giving her vitamin C, sending her off to work, just all vitamined up. Probably
Yeah,
pissing
I mean,
green.
at this point, it's all mainly in senior homes anyway here. So I think that, like you said, I think that's the best protocol. You can't shut down everything. Sports are shut down, the economy shut down, everything's shut down. So hopefully they open things back up. As for
Hey,
you, I mean, you're on a four fight winning streak now. What do you think it'll take to get a UFC shot or a shot at Bellator, one of these big organizations?
I'm actually on a 5-fight win streak too,
There it is,
and
5.
and it's like, yeah, like, so I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but like we did get an offer from something at the beginning of the year, but it's kind of been it's just kind of been like a weird year for me. So like I finished my fight in July, and then I was still keeping on training because I just had a feeling that someone was going to pull up for the UFC Vancouver card at 135. And I noticed there was like a whole lineup of like 4 different matchups. So I stayed training. I went out to Montreal. I was training out there, and I started to get like these symptoms of like a concussion or something like that. And I didn't really know what it was from. I didn't know if it was like a concussion. I didn't know what it was, but then I was like, oh, whatever. I'm just going to pull through it. And then I was getting like these crazy headaches. And then I got to the point where like I went for a run one day and I like threw up. And yeah, so I was supposed to fight Chad and Hellinger for the Rise FC Bantamweight title in, I think, October last year, I think October, and then I had to withdraw from the fight just because my symptoms weren't allowing me to train. Like I couldn't do anything. I was just doing physiotherapy and pretty much staying at home for like 3-4 months, and then I get healthy, and I'm like, okay, it's time to get a fight going. It's go time. I'm in game mode now. And then 3 weeks later, the entire world shut down. And then I'm back at home for 3 or 4 months, and I'm like, why? And then I got this stomach thing, and I was like, man, what is going on? Like my luck this year has just been kind of it hasn't been the best, but I know with like my manager Jason House and all the guys at Iridium Sports, I mean, they have the ability to get me to where I want to go. So I had the best team in the world on it as far as, you know, that communication directly with Sean Shelby, with Dana White. You know, there was an interest that Brave FC was looking at me as well. I was in contact with them not even too long ago. So that was an interest as well. I mean, if it wasn't the UFC, because kind of the narrative from what I understood is that basically the UFC to get in right now, they're not just signing random guys for contracts. Like they want you to come in if it's a short notice replacement. If not, they put you through the Contender Series, and the Contender Series is kind of their new platform to see if you whatever they think you qualify for the UFC. I mean, I was expecting to be on it the summer of last year. I mean, I was seeing these guys with, 5-1 records, 6-2 records. You know, I saw one guy on there who had 4 fights, and I'm like, with guys that are just completely like, all due respect to that guy for making to 4-0, but like you fought nobody. You know what I mean? Where like my last guy fought a guy, the last guy I knocked out, he beat a guy who got signed to the UFC. I mean, like it didn't work out for him because he got caught for being a racist, but still, that's a whole different topic. But and then before that, I fought Gabe Sagman, who's like one of the toughest dudes in Canada at 135 that no one knows about. Previous to that, and like the guys that you see having success, like Adam McDougall, Gabe Sagman. I've jumped up 15 pounds and fought a ex-Bellator guy and choked him out. I have 8 wins and only 1 decision win. I'm finishing people. I finished Michael Hay for the unified bantamweight title. I mean, as far as Canada, I've won the BFL title. So I'm like, I was kind of looking. I was like, all right, well, the third belt will be the charm. That's what will get me in. But yeah, no, I'm just I think I like really try to rush it a lot because I'm like, I know where my skill set's at. I know where I believe my skill set deserves to be. But at the end of the day, like, the longer I wait, like, even though I haven't been able to train that much, like, I get to work on, maybe things from the the mental aspect of fighting, and being able to take this time to just kind of like sit and reflect. And it's kind of one of those things where I'm just gonna be ready for when my opportunity comes, and that's all I can control, man. I can't control Dana. I mean, I was shouting them out every second day after I won my last fight. I was, private messaging them. I lost my marbles and like, Dana White, put me in there. I'm ready. Like, this guy's never gonna see my messages, So I'm just gonna let my team take care of that, and once I'm healthy, get back to training, get back to the swing of everything, and my time will come.
When are you looking to get back in there? I know you're just getting back into it. I think you had your second workout in months today, or was it yesterday that you had it?
Yeah.
Is there a timeline to when we can expect to see you fighting either in an octagon or a ring or on a mat?
Yeah, like I'm just kind of taking it how it go, how my body, basically my doctors, they basically told me that we're just gonna keep playing it by ear. It's kind of a day by day process. They basically told me that once you feel and your body feels like it's ready to respond to training, you're basically back at it. I mean, normally I would try to hide these things and not be as vocal about it, but I mean these bantamweights have a lot of catching up to do anyways. So I mean it's a very unfortunate I'm not able to train right now, but for me, I think the biggest thing that I've struggled with throughout my career is just being in the right place mentally. I've never gone out there and quit in a fight, but sometimes maybe my thought process or my approach to life and to fighting has been skewed at times. Like I've maybe focused on the wrong things when I should have just been focused on one thing. So it's really, this time's kind of helped me to just be able to get my priorities straight, get my life in order, get take care of some things that I've been putting off. I've been able to spend a lot of time with my girlfriend, been able to spend a lot of time with my family throughout this thing, which is something like I'm always on the go. I'm always just driving to training, driving, to go coach, and then come back home and I eat and I go to sleep, and it's kind of allowed me to take that break that was kind of much needed to just, be a regular human again for a bit, which is, in the beginning I hated it, but it's not too bad of a thing. You know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, there's a lot more to life than just fighting. So that's one thing I'm trying to have to learn right now.
So a lot of the guys on the Contender Series and the Ultimate Fighter tend to be Americans or Brazilians. What do you think it'll take for Canada to really, I mean, obviously we have some high-level Canadian talent, George St Pierre, Rory McDonald, but what do you think it'll take to have hundreds of Canadians on the UFC roster like you see with Brazil and the US?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that kind of has hurt the Canadian market, I mean, like when George St Pierre was around, there was just that face that people could correlate to. There was like the Anderson Silva was the face for Brazil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we've been kind of just missing that standout face that's been like, okay, well, we need to draw the market back to Canada. I mean, really the closest thing we had is my boy Tristan Connolly when he stepped up on 6 days notice in Vancouver, and you know what I mean? Like everyone now knows who Tristan is, which is like, the guy's the biggest dork in the world, and he's just he's gotten so famous from stepping up. When like Tristan's he's an animal. He's an absolute animal. He's a one of a kind human being. No one else in the world it would have worked out for him, but Tristan's mind is just so strong. So I mean, anyone that gets in the cage with Tristan is just going to have problems just because of the guy's mindset. He is mentally probably the strongest fighter I have ever met in my life. There's nothing that phases him. Like I gotta tell you something. He's telling me like I'm watching this fight get announced. Tristan Connolly versus Michel Pereira. I'm watching Michel Pereira knock all these dudes out. I'm like, oh man, like okay, Tristan, yeah, we can do this, man. We can do it. He calls me. I'm just gonna get him tired. I'm just gonna grind on him. He's gonna fade. I'm like, yeah, for sure, man, for sure. You're gonna get it. And then me and Jeremy Kennedy were watching this fight happen, and we're like, we kind of thought he lost his marbles when he's telling us the story. And it's folding out the exact way he's telling me. I'm like, this dude is a better manifester than anyone I have ever met in my life. So I think Tristan could be a guy. Cole Smith could be a guy, that, Cole's just bouncing back from his first loss. That guy's an animal, and anyone at 135 is in trouble. So I think it just takes people having a face to relate to that demographic, from Canada, having George St Pierre, from Brazil having Anderson Silva, Conor McGregor representing Ireland. You know what I mean? So I think, look, watching Rory McDonald win a title right now. Look at that. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a matter of having that face that people can relate to. And if I get in there, I will definitely become that face of Canada, 100%.
I think even like Felicia Spencer had a crazy fight 2 weeks ago. Had she had pulled off that upset, I think it would have really done a lot for Canadian MMA.
For sure.
Really, yeah. I mean, obviously, Amanda Nunes is a special fighter that it's going to take someone special to beat. But
I don't want to fight Amanda Nunes.
I don't want.
I'll take any of the guys in the division. I'm good. I don't want to fight that girl. She's an animal. And like you said, if Felicia could have done that, but even Felicia, I don't even think she trains in Canada. She lives in Quebec, but trains in Arkansas or something, or
Florida, I think. Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I don't know, but it's. I think what people are starting to see is the western side of Canada really started to come out. For forever, it was the guys out east. George St Pierre, Rory McDonald, David Loiseau, Patrick O'Tay, guys like that were the face, and now you're seeing a lot more guys like Teddy Ash. He got his shot on Contenders.
Tanner Boser.
Tanner Boser. The Cole Smith. Tristan Connolly. There was Ryan James, Arjun Bhullar from out here. Who else? And then we have so many guys that are going to be there so soon, like Achilles Estremadura, Jamie Horth from the Sound up in Squamish. She's going to be in there very soon. We have fighters like Lupita from Titan MMA. There's so many guys. Someone's going to get mad at me because I didn't name drop them, but we have so many guys out here that are UFC ready. So many UFC fighters will come to Checkmat, or they'll come to Revolution, and they'll train with us, and they're like, wow, why didn't we know about you guys? You know what I mean? And just the all-star of fighters that we have, from guys that you'll see on the mat every day, like Bibiano Fernandez, Jeremy Kennedy, Cole Smith, Craig McLean. Then, we have guys that come in like Shane Campbell, you know what I mean? And there's just such a hot talent bed of fighters in British Columbia. And I think the more fights that we get out here in the regional scene, the more people are going to hear that there's contenders in the UFC sitting here in British Columbia. Just people don't know about them yet.
Speaking of Canadian MMA, George St Pierre is getting inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. I was blown away because I thought it already happened. I was like, how's he not already in there? What's your thought on, I guess, GSP's status of greatest of all time? Do you have him as number one?
Take drug testing out of everything. Yeah, he is number one. I do kind of agree with that narrative that he is the graceful unknown number was trying to call me. I think it's a telemarketer. We're all good. GSP is definitely at the top of my list. I mean, the guy, look at what he's done. The guy's, I think, 27-2, two weight division champion. I think he's got the most title fight victories. Beat everybody he ever fought. He avenged his 2 losses. I mean, that he was just such a good example of how to model your career as an MMA fighter. He was one of the very first guys that was an elite world-class fighter in every area. And I remember when I went to TriStar for the first time when I was 17 years old, and I met him, and I would just I would hyper obsessively I would study everything he's doing in the gym. I would just model everything. Like I couldn't pay for the pad sessions that he was getting as coach. I was like some broke kid out of high school, so I would just go and like be watching from the corner of my eye while he's hitting pads, and I would be copying his combinations as I'm doing on the bag. And he's just such an inspiring example for what's possible for Canadian fighters. So I was shocked. I actually was thinking the same thing when I watched him get inducted to the Hall of Fame. I'm like, I thought he was already here. Like
I assumed he was.
I thought it would have been a no-brainer. So it was kind of crazy. We got a crazy dog here, Pharaoh.
All right. So the little the platform I got, I guess, from an MMA was based on making matchmaking and making predictions for fights. We have a big title fight coming up in a month, and we'll stick with the bantamweight division. Petr Yan and Jose Aldo. What's your prediction on that fight?
I think I'm going with my boy Jose Aldo. Yeah, Jose Aldo is like stylistically, he was my favorite fighter to watch. Like especially coming up in the sport, I've always really like tried to emulate a lot of how he fought. I don't think I hit as hard as him, so it doesn't work out quite as well for me. But I think Jose Aldo looked amazing in his last fight. That loss that he has on his record against Marlon Moraes, that definitely isn't a loss.
Yeah.
I mean, and Petr Yan, he's very dangerous. Like he's got knockout power, great wrestling, great ground and pound, but he's been shown that he can be hurt in fights, and I think that's just one thing people sleep on. Just because he is finishing fights and he's doing so well, I really think Jose could catch him. I think it could be big trouble for Petr Yan, although I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way. But I will say Jose Aldo by decision.
And then last question, we'll make it non-MMA related to end on a non-MMA note. What have you been watching on TV? What video games have you been doing? What sorts of things have you been doing while sick and not training and in quarantine?
Well, I almost beat the whole Grand Theft Auto game. I busted out the PlayStation 4. I'm watching F is for Family. And yeah, man, like I would love to tell you this elaborate story of how I've been incredibly productive. I don't have one. I've been sitting on my ass, and that's just Netflix. I've been watching like Family Guy, F is for Family. I mean, I never get tired of watching South Park, Trailer Park Boys, all that. I mean, I'm kind of still a child at heart, so or a kid, I guess. I guess children aren't allowed to watch South Park. It's 18 plus, but I snuck past the parental guidance, so we're good.
I need to get into the Trailer Park Boys. They're like from up the street. I taught one of their kids how to swim, and I've just never watched the show.
No way. You gotta watch it, man. It's the best. Like, if you just like raunchy, like comedy, and just the politically incorrectness of it, I don't know. With like, in a world where like there's so much crazy stuff going on right now, people need to like laugh more. I think that's like very important that like we're kind of going through like I think quarantine's just made people lose their marbles. Like everyone's just so angry in the world right now. Like I had some guy like on the highway cut me off and then give me the finger. I'm like, man, like this is the world we're living in right now. So yeah, if you guys are feeling angry, you're feeling tense, go watch some Trailer Park Boys. It'll be a good laugh for you.
All right, man. Great way to end it. All the best. Hopefully you're back in fighting shortly, and hopefully it's in the UFC.
Yeah, for